My guest today is László Ferenczi, a NEC Fellow in the International Program. Your project at NEC, László, is titled Landscape Impact of the Cistercian Monasteries in Marginal Europe in the Middle Ages. It aims to comparatively analyze a selection of well-documented Cistercian estates in different marginal regions of Europe in order to provide a better assessment of the long-term environmental impact of Cistercian land management in the medieval period. Can you tell me more about the genesis of your project?
Well, I think it started with my doctoral thesis, and that maybe I wasn't really content or happy with the results I got out from that. It was the thesis focused on the Hungarian abbeys, and I tried to compare 5 case studies, basically doing topographical research, working with archival materials, but since I'm also a historian and then an archaeologist, I've been also working with landscape archaeological data. I've been doing field walking and collecting landscape evidence in order to localize those elements in the historic landscape which connect to Cistercian economic activities, such as fish pond remains, mill sites, field boundaries, plow land, traces of agricultural cultivation. I mean, so this was a comparative analysis, and oftentimes when I was reading literature concerning the results of other researchers from neighboring countries, Poland, Czech Republic, but also in regard to landscape archaeology, mainly researchers in the UK have been dealing with that. So when I've been reading the literature, oftentimes there were remarks, critical remarks concerning, okay, how do we compare the evidence? And this general problem concerning comparative analysis and how do we arrive at a conclusion concerning regionality regarding actually the history and the activities of a religious order which expanded to various different regions in medieval Europe. So I think for this comparative view or approach, what was really missing was a framework or a groundwork, basically environmental data and an in-depth analysis into the environmental conditions, in different environmental conditions to which the individual monasteries had to adapt. So starting from here, I decided that it would be actually relevant and interesting to include more environmental data in the analysis, apart from the archival and landscape archaeological evidence. And so this project I've been working on at NEC is focusing on this, and I try to include also environmental data from mostly publicly available European or national databases on soil conditions, woodland.
Is there anything specific for these marginal Europe regions that you studied as compared to core European parts?
I have to first make it clear that this concept of marginal Europe comes from a study by Sidney Pollard, and what he is discussing its marginal Europe, but on different levels. So not necessarily in the framework of this economic historical debate concerning the core Europe and the marginal regions of Europe, such as our Eastern European countries or the Baltic region or Scandinavia, but also environmentally marginal regions where conditions for agricultural cultivations were less favorable. That's one important point I have to make. And then the second is that you can look at marginality from the point of view of the expansion, the administrative, institutional expansion of the Cistercian order. So, of course, from that point of view, Central Eastern Europe again figures as a marginal region, like Transylvania, with Transylvania and the Transylvanian monasteries as the easternmost ones.
Is your research relevant in showing forms of environmental change? Are you interested in such change? Are you looking at it?
That is a task for my future projects, definitely, because for that I need more scientific data, and that comes from sampling, environmental sampling, and I think for that I will need to apply with project partners or different people, scientists who work with such type of data, and that's I think the usual way which makes it possible to study long-term environmental changes in the medieval period. Otherwise, based on the data I am working with now, it's more about the structural divisions at a certain time, the structural differences in estate management as defined by different landscape conditions.
You use a lot of modern methods. What are the challenges that you have faced as a researcher in the digital age?
I could mention many little technical details, like handling a software is not always easy. There are always bugs, of course. In terms of the quality of data, the representative value of the data, the different data sets have different representative values depending on scale. And that is, for example, a methodological challenge. How do you scale up or scale down different data and harmonize them within a GIS software?
What's next for you? What are your future projects? Are they related to what you do now?
Certainly, and I'm glad you mentioned this. The long-term environmental changes. I'm working together now with scientists at Charles University, and a month or two ago we submitted an application for a research project which aims to focus on one monastery in the Czech Republic, the Abbey of Plassey. We will be looking at manorial sites, fish ponds, and hopefully collecting samples to study environmental change, to see actually what was the long-term environmental impact of that particular monastery in that particular region.
How useful was the NEC Fellowship and being part of this interdisciplinary group? Did you get useful insight from your colleagues?
I should thank each and every fellow and member of NEC. Actually, it was an eye-opening experience. Although I think it's kind of a common experience for everyone to be part of a group with such diverse interests. And I think this is maybe also the mission of NEC, to bring together researchers from very different fields and see what they can get from one another. And for me, I think it helped me to step away a bit methodologically and theoretically, looking at my project from maybe a bit from a distance, and see the broader implications, or try to actually formulate ideas where exactly my research would lead me concerning, for example, a broader economic historical problems of Central Eastern Europe.
Has the COVID-19 pandemic affected your research? Have you been able to carry out your research?
There was this little problem with the timing of the fieldwork I had. So the period when I planned to carry out that fieldwork was late March, early April. That was the plan originally, but it was exactly when COVID-19 broke out. So just from one day to another, it turned out that I'm not going to be able to cross the borders. So I had to postpone the fieldwork, and well, that was not a really big problem, but I have to mention that for landscape archaeological fieldwork, particularly the early spring months are the most ideal when vegetation is not so intensive, but it's doable. So
thank you, László. It was great talking to you.
Thanks very much.
Good luck with the research, and look forward to see the results.